On February 8, 2021, Mahmoud Alavi, the head of the Iranian Ministry of Intelligence, gave an interview to Iranian state television as part of programming commemorating the 42nd anniversary of the Iranian Revolution. The interview began with the host claiming that despite the efforts of Iran's enemies, Iran had managed to remain a, quote, calm island in a sea of regional insecurity. For 45 minutes after this introduction, the minister, Alavi, expanded on the destabilization efforts against Iran and Iran's responses to them. From this extensive interview, a 34-second clip made the rounds on Iranian social media, as well as on foreign-funded Persian language broadcasters such as BBC. In this clip, Alavi notes how the Ministry of Intelligence was brought into the work of entertainment media production, and he lists a number of films and TV series as examples of the kind of work that the ministry had sponsored. And some of the posters you see in this slide here are examples that he named in this interview. In sponsoring this work, he claimed, the ministry was able to, quote, educate the public, protect society against spies, as well as to achieve a series of other intelligence goals, end quote. For a close observer of Iranian popular culture, or even an ordinary Iranian media consumer, it does not come as any big surprise that the Iranian intelligence had thrown their hat into the entertainment business. For the last decade, Iranian TV and cinema has been filled with themes of infiltration, espionage, terrorism, corruption, and the complex and sophisticated ways that Iranian intelligence services disrupt these nefarious plots against Iran. In some cases, this programming has been sponsored by the Revolutionary Guard-funded Oj Art and Media Foundation, and some, as Alavi noted in his interview, involve the Ministry of Intelligence directly, and there are other programs, other shows and films for which the funding is still uncertain. Which intelligence units are sponsoring what programs and how this sponsorship plays out is not my main concern in this presentation. Rather, I want to begin to unpack the cultural and political role that this programming plays in relation to a larger state narrative about the country. In other words, the Minister of Intelligence talked in very general terms about the ways that these types of shows and films are intended to educate and protect the public and to reach these unnamed other intelligence goals. And I want to start to flesh out what these might be and how they provide the state justifications for strengthening its security apparatus and for rationalizing the methods of a security state. We can start to flesh out this narrative by looking at two television serials. The first is the very popular one called Gondo, the one with the image of the two women on the screen, which began to air in June 2019. It's a spy thriller series focusing on the intelligence unit of the Iranian Revolutionary Guards, and the plot revolves around elite officers who manage to identify and dismantle a vast spy network involving Iranian-American dual citizens, Iranian literati and artists, and a number of foreign countries, including the US and Saudi Arabia. And it involves even the corrupt relatives of Iran's elite leadership. And it's important to note here that this theme of corruption comes up in a number of popular shows. And when corrupt officials or officials with corrupt family members, corrupt children, are identified, they usually are targeting the reformist factions or indicate that that's who they are targeting. The other show that I want to talk about today is called Khane Amn, or Safe House. That's the image you see with the three men and the one woman. And this began broadcasting on November of 2020 and recently wrapped up its first season. In this show, again, we see very elaborate plots against Iran that are being unraveled for the viewer and which involve another complex network of conspirators against Iran. Some of the main differences between this show and Gondo is that there is much more emphasis on terrorism and plots of terrorism inside Iran, attacks against civilians that are being planned, and then the intelligence services manage to stop these attacks. And the actors identified in these plots are ISIS specifically, but also the Iranian opposition group, Mujahideen Khalq, MEK, which is also covered heavily in this show. Another difference in this show is that Safe House highlights the personal sacrifices of those in the country's security apparatus in ways that Gondo did not do so much. And the characters, the security officers in a Safe House, they're much more humanized, even more so than they were in Gondo, although there was humanization of those officials in Gondo as well. However, what they both share is that the intelligence services are depicted as highly sophisticated, including sophisticated technical skills, and that they have a presence in all over the world, in Turkey, in the Persian Gulf Arab countries, in Canada even. So they show a transnational presence of Iranian intelligence, both physically present, but also they are shown to have high level technical skills. And these officials, these security forces, as well as the security agencies, are shown to always be on top of even the most complex plots against the country. This indeed is the shared messaging of not only these two shows, but dozens of other cinema and television programmings, some of which, like Gondo, have proven a popular success with Iranian audiences, and some of this programming has even garnered critical acclaim as well. And the main message, again, places a dual emphasis on the one hand on the web of conspiracies always targeting Iran, and on the other hand on the capacities of the Iranian security services for combating these threats. The programming constructs a very particular relationship between the audience members, who are presumed to be members of the Iranian public, so the audience is an internal audience, and the intelligence services as protector and protected, and therefore serving as a justification for both domestic and international policies.